Okay, conversation one, people. Here we are, online again, just temporarily. I'm gonna make this lecture short and sweet if I can. I know I always promise that, and it doesn't usually happen, but I'm serious this time because Monday was a day full of midterms for many of us, so I wasn't able to record. So it's already been delayed a couple days, and tomorrow is a holiday. So you don't want to, we don't want to be recording on the holiday or watching. So let's get this done. The midterm was pretty well done, I thought. I will point out to you your individual strong points and weak points next, not next class, but 2 weeks from now. So let's talk about chapter 7. Once we get back in the class again, I will probably expand on what I say today, because like I said, I just want to introduce the topic and get this video uploaded quickly so that you can get credit for your attendance and get some background for discussion. And then we'll talk about some grammar things, and we'll talk about some vocabulary and how to handle the topic in class. Okay, so I'm talking about this issue in a more general sense than what they do in the textbook, which is often what we do. I'm gonna write this. First of all, I'm gonna write this the British or Canadian way with the U in it because I want to. There's not a good reason for that. There's different spellings. Flavor, for example, just like favorite, or harbor, or color, can be spelled two different ways. Color spelled this way is the British or Canadian way, and it happens to be a little bit more similar to the original word, which is, not the original word, but where the word came from, which was French, le couleur. Couleur is where the word color comes from, and the American spelling just is completely off, and probably the pronunciation too, but I wouldn't know because I do have a mild Canadian accent if you pay attention carefully. So we're going to talk about favorites, so not just favorite things, but the textbook mostly focuses on objects, especially collections. But I want to expand this to include, hobbies. So as you all know, I did ask you to introduce yourself, and I did read over, all of your submissions at the beginning of the semester, just so I could see, your, learn a little bit about you, but also see what your writing ability is like. And so I did that, and some people talked about their hobbies, which you may have noticed. You don't know what other students were asked, but on the midterm, I told you that I was going to ask you possibly to introduce yourself, but I decided not to do that because that question is a lot different than the other questions that I had on the list. So I ended up not asking anybody about doing a self-introduction. So that means we can talk about that now. So we can talk about hobbies. In particular, we're talking about favorite things, for example, your collection, but also it's a favorite thing to do, like an active thing. So that's the primary thing I want to talk about with regard to whether something is a hobby or not. So when Americans and Canadians say the word hobby, they mean something that you like, but they mean like something that you like to do that's active. So passive things Like, I remember when I first came to Korea, a long time ago, almost 15 years ago, I had classes with adults, and low-level classes, of course. One of the things you can ask them is, after you ask them what your name is, and what is your job, or what do you like to, where do you live, and do you have a family? Then you say, what do you like to do, right? Or what is your hobby? It's a similar question, but different, because hobby implies that you're doing something active, something more productive. So like if I say, what do you like to do? And you say sleeping, that's fine, but that is not really doing something. That's, in a sense, doing nothing, right? So if you say, I say, what do you like to do? And you say, like, lying down on the sofa, that's not a hobby. So it has to be, you can use different words. I like to use the word active, right? But I mean, something constructive or productive. Notice how they're all tive words. But it's really about it. Does it develop, right? There's something that is being developed, or are you building? Like, that's why I said constructive. Are you building something? So people fix things. People knitting, sewing, fixing cars, gardening, sports. These are all things that we would refer to as hobbies. Like, if you get paid to do it, then you're a professional, right? You're a pro. So, if you are a gardener and people are paying you to do it, it no longer is a hobby. It can still be a hobby if it's not your main job, I suppose. It's sort of like a thing you do on the weekend, but if you're doing it for extra cash, it can still be a hobby. Like, hobby doesn't have to be a volunteer thing. But, if your career is landscaping or gardening or planting trees or farming or something, that's not a hobby. We actually have a thing, in Korea, I believe you call these little, I've done it, these little pieces of land that you rent, or if you're lucky that you own. It's called a Jumal Nongjang. I'm not sure I think we have maybe some students who are not Korean. So Jumal Nongjang is like a weekend farm. That's how you say it in Korean, but we don't say weekend farm in English. We say hobby farm. But it's not an exact science, but there's if you have in your house, you have some plants and you're growing them, you're eating them, or they're flowers or whatever, you call that a garden. In English, we call it a garden. Hobby farm is a bigger area. It's a larger piece of land which actually produces a significant amount of food. Now, Jumal Nongjang can be small or larger. It depends on the person, on the Koreans, amount of time that they have. It's not actually a Jumal Nongjang, because if you don't go there except on the weekend, there's probably not enough water for your plants. So, you'd have to just grow. If you only went on the weekends, there's only certain things you can grow. Let me say, something that can endure being dry, maybe sweet potato or potatoes or corn or onion, garlic. Those are real Jumal Nongjang sort of plants. But if you have tomatoes, you got to water the tomatoes like every second day. The reason I'm talking about this is because one of my hobbies is gardening. I had a Jumal Nongjang for 2 years, but I was unable to do it this year because, sad face, too busy. So, and that's also the reason why this lecture was not recorded on Monday, because things get really busy right at this time, at the end of April. And unfortunately, that's also the time when you should be planting and like growing your garden. So I discovered that I wasn't able to keep my garden in good condition. You know, you have to kind of maintain it, right? And that's another thing about a hobby is you have to maintain it, okay? Like if you say your favorite thing is gardening, and then next week your favorite thing is badminton, and next week your favorite thing is collecting dolls, these are not hobbies. These are just your mood. You're just changing the things that you like according to how you feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to talk about something that's a hobby, like you have to develop, again, it's related to development and not just activity. So a hobby is something that you do it for a while, like at least a few months or maybe a few years. And then that's you develop a skill, right? Another word that you might associate with it is that if you do a hobby, you might perhaps you're collecting something, right? Which means that you're gathering something, and that takes a while. You don't like collect something for one day. You collect something for 5 years, and then you have a collection, whatever it is, right? It keeps going. Like I have a coin collection, and some of them are special coins that you buy from the Canadian Mint, or they're limited edition, or they're very old. I started collecting those coins about the time I came to Korea, about 15 years ago. And I wouldn't say it's my hobby anymore because I haven't collected any coins recently, but I did it for about 10 years. So I have gold coins and silver coins and old coins and Korean coins and American ones and Canadian ones of all different types and different years. That's a collection, and it takes a while for you to, gather all of it together and to build that collection. Again, that's another word, like you're doing something constructive, you're building something. These days, the internet and the amount of development, the amount of people who have money and interests has caused collections to become more and more expensive. And it all depends, as you know, it all depends on whether something is famous. But if it's famous and there's a lot of people who want it, that thing can be very, very expensive. It becomes collectible. Now, like I said, I'm going to add to this lecture next class anyway, but I think this is a good introduction so everybody has the basics. So when I show you some stuff, some examples, and we discuss it, then you're already going to be thinking, what kinds of things am I interested in? Do I have a hobby, or do I need a hobby, or what hobby would I be interested in? In university, you probably have some things that you were doing already when you were in high school or middle school, and you might continue those things. For example, maybe you can play a musical instrument like the violin or the piano or the guitar, and maybe in high school you were too busy, so you had to stop your hobby. But now that you're in university, you can pick it up again, or you can start a new hobby. I mean, as busy as you think you are, I think from my personal experience and from my observation of Korean students that comparatively speaking, you have more available time during your university time than you had since elementary school. And these days, elementary school kids are in Hagwons, and then middle school, they have more school and more Hagwons, and then high school, you're just studying for tests and Hagwons and no time to do anything except for the most necessary things. And then you come to university, and then you have a schedule that is flexible. You might have a part-time job, and you might, have some responsibilities or go home on the weekend. But generally, you have some open, like you have some empty time somewhere in your schedule where you could do something and develop a new skill or practice something, some sort of hobby. Okay, so I want you to think about this it's already Wednesday, so we have we have a holiday tomorrow, which is nice, Children's Day, so enjoy your day off, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we are in class again. So think about things that you're interested in, favorite things that could be something that you could collect or something that's a hobby. One of the things people are crazy about these days, one among many things, first of all, let me talk about something from when I was young. Cards, collectible cards. Sports cards were famous when I was young, but when I went to high school, they started to have card games and related to collectible, cards that are related to characters. So you got, if any of you know Magic, I have cards still from years ago. These Magic the Gathering cards, they're you can play a game with them and you can keep the cards. And if you have some of the most powerful, rare Magic cards, they can be worth $100,000. And Pokemon cards, these days, Pokemon cards, people actually fight each other. They're sold out everywhere. You can't find them. My son is in elementary school. The elementary school says, don't bring the cards to school because all the kids are crazy about them and they won't pay attention in class. All they can think about is trading their Pokemon cards. And, an original, an original tournament, rare tournament edition, Gold Pikachu or whatever, from when I was in high school, from 1998, from 25 years ago, that card is worth $1 million. It's ridiculous. Anyway, some people are collecting shoes now, and if you have original, Air Jordans from a certain year, they're limited edition and don't make them anymore. These shoes can be $3,000, $4,000, and this is people's hobby. Buying shoes, keeping them, not even wearing them. For me, shoes are not my hobby. Shoes are for wearing. Shoes are for sports. Shoes are for walking. And then when they get damaged, I throw them in the garbage and I buy new ones. That's not a hobby. Some people have a hobby where they're searching for cool looking shoes, and then they buy them and then they keep them in the box and save them for 10 years, and then they sell them to somebody else because they're really special and look fantastic and they represent a certain player like Jordan or Kevin Durant or somebody else, Stephen Curry, whatever. Anyway, we'll talk about favorite things and favorite activities, especially hobbies and collections. We'll continue to talk about that next class, and we will set up a presentation schedule. And of course, our class will be in person. So I'll see you next Monday. Enjoy your holiday, and think about what you can talk about, what you can offer in terms of hobbies or collections, so we can have a good discussion on Monday, next class. Okay, enjoy your holiday. See you next time. It's not working again.